Now, the Iraqi authorities have hanged 36 people in connection with the massacre carried out by Islamic State militants. It involved the murder of up to 1,700 army recruits who were captured as IS made dramatic advances across the country in 2014. The militants released shocking video images documenting what became known as the Camp Speicher massacre. Joining me here in the studio is Issam Ikamawi from the BBC's Arabic service. Issam, you were actually there in October 2014, shortly after this massacre occurred. Just remind me what happened.
Well, at the time there were a series of massacres. There are other massacres which had taken place, which were all similar in the way that they were at military installations, military camps, or cadets or new recruits were brought in from the provinces for training. And then IS, while advancing in the north of Iraq, took over these camps and massacred people who were caught in the middle. At the time, there were accusations that some of the senior officers had actually escaped and left these new recruits to their own devices. And most of them, or a large number of them, had met a horrible death in these camps.
And you actually spoke to some of the survivors of the camp. Just talk me through some of those testimonials.
Yes, we spoke to a young man, 21-year-old Abu Ali, his name. He refused to give his full name. We had to interview him, with his back to camera. He was scared. He'd been in one of these camps when it was attacked by IS. He was saved, or he was spared, only because his colleagues fell on top of him. So he looked like he was dead. However, he told us that while they were all lying on the ground, a number of IS militants were going around checking, finishing off those who were injured. And he said while someone was standing on top of him, his telephone went off in his pocket, and it was his brother. So the guy picked up the phone and spoke to his brother and said, "We just executed your brother and we're going to kill you next."
The details are harrowing, aren't they? They just
defy
belief, really. Iraq has now hanged these 36 men convicted of the killing of up to 1,700 military recruits at that US base in 2014. Of those executed, all believed to be Iraqi citizens, sentenced to death back in February. Many have complained about the procedure, saying they were denied access to lawyers or they've been forced to confess under torture. What more do you know on that?
That's correct. There have been large-scale condemnation of the process of trying these people. Like you mentioned, we don't know what kind of questioning, what kind of evidence was brought against these people. Were they tortured before they confessed to these crimes? We don't know. It looks like some of it leaves a lot of question marks. However, the sentences were passed a few months ago. However, they've been reactivated recently following that explosion in Baghdad last month, where over 400 people have been killed in that explosion. The Prime Minister, Mr. Al-Abadi, said that he was going to precipitate the execution. The United Nations called this, it will only accelerate injustice in Iraq.
Fascinating stuff, Issam. Many thanks for joining me there and giving us your personal insights, since having actually been there at the time. Issam Ikamawi there from the BBC's Arabic service.